Hey guys, welcome back to the Steve Vai album review series. We have powered on through the two, just the album and the EP from the 80s. There were just two of them. Then we've had quite the journey here to the 90s with, a couple studio albums, an EP, and now the last one of the 90s. Of course, we're talking about 1999, the Ultra Zone. Really wild looking art here with Steve decorated up in like a DMT elf or something. Like he's looking crazy. And just really, really cool artwork on here. I really like it. And it really captures kind of the vibe of the album really well. And Steve's laying here covered in paint on the inside notes here. So, yeah, really, really, really cool album with just phenomenal production. We'll go ahead and knock that out of the way because that's one of the first thing that comes to mind when thinking of this album is just the production is killer on here. And this album, the vibe overall kind of has like this Eastern, like Indian kind of vibe going on to it, or Asian culture. Some there's even like a track, like the final track that features like a Japanese vocalist on it and a guitar player from like a big band over there. Or I don't know how big of a band they are but over there, but they're a band over there, like I think a metal band over there. But yeah, and really these tracks kind of throughout here will kind of demonstrate that theme of mainly more of an Indian thing than like a Japanese or Chinese thing. And really we just get that kind of vibe going right off the bat with the first track, The Blood and Tears, which starts off with kind of like this spoken word portion from like this Indian woman, and like saying like, let the mind... It's something she says that's really just really cool sounding. I can't remember off the top of my head what she says, but it's really profound, saying like shed the blood and the tears, and just it just really sets the tone right off the bat. And then you get this really cool like strumming of these like acoustic chords from Steve, and then this female vocalist, she's doing like this really cool like operatic kind of singing thing, just kind of chant like singing that you would probably find, and like it sounds like a really ancient and just again just really fits in with that kind of Indian culture and like their type of singing. If you've ever heard like any of there's like Hindu songs and stuff like that in that culture and anything like that, it sounds a lot like that. And she's kind of singing her way through this while Steve's kind of riffing here. It's got a really cool vibe going on. And then there's like a main kind of chorus thing she does. I think she's speaking another language. I think she's speaking Indian and kind of does this really just very beautifully sung melody. And then you get the Steve just kind of grooving along here. Not really to like a heavy track or thing, just this perfect kind of groove with this really cool beat going on to it. Then you get this cool breakdown, which is kind of wacky, like guitar effects going on. And then we hear, this same vocalist kind of come in and do like kind of some whispers and stuff going on. And then you hop right back into that main melody and you close it with her kind of speaking it like this profound, talking about the blood and the tears and let the river flow or something of that nature. It's just really, really cool. And it just really just kind of sets the tone right off the bat because this same vocalist appears on quite a few of the tracks on here. And The Blood and the Tears, that's one of my favorite freaking Steve Vai songs. It's such a cool and like, this whole album really has like almost like this meditative vibe to it. And this one really just sets it right off the bat, setting that kind of theme. And just one of the best damn tracks off here. The Blood and the Tears is just incredible, and just such a creative song. Then we go on with the title track, the Ultra Zone, which is kind of more of an upbeat, kind of shreddy track to it from Steve, kind of something you'd find off of Passion Warfare, that sort of thing, and just kind of not so far into the theme with the indie thing, but it does open with like a kind of an ancient sounding chant again, and then kind of goes into the song. So there it is yet again, kind of following that theme a little bit, but this one goes more off the rails with it, with kind of the shreddiness and everything from Steve. So Again, just another really, really cool track. Then we have, oh man, this is one of my favorites. It's simply titled Ooh, oh. So 4 O's. And it's titled that for a damn good reason. Because it's got literally, that's what like the guitar sounds like it's singing to you, and I think there might be like that female vocalist singing that who chimes in kind of later on, just singing like the ooh, like really high pitched sounding. And but this is a pretty damn heavy track. Like the riff for it, it's just like such a, like the distortion's heavy from Steve on here. But despite being like a really heavy riff, it yet again has this really, really calming kind of effect to it. And it's got this really, really cool layered kind of sounding to the chorus kind of thing going on in there. And Steve again just throughout it, like he'll do like this kind of heavy little riff and then do like wow, kind of sounding like it's screaming like ooh, and it's just really, really funny. We're kind of, well, I mean, it's not really like a comedic track, but it's just kind of funny and kind of cool to hear how he's, again, how creative he can be with this. And then I think the female vocalist, at least I think, that's where it's either that or a synth that chimes in later on and kind of goes along with the guitar. He's doing that. And then you get a breakdown that's kind of like just absolute out of this world sounding cool. You get like this cool little shreddy part, and then it'll go like a little screech, and then just a strumming of like almost sounding like a sitar or something. And then this really offbeat thing that hops right back into that really badass hooky kind of heavier riff that Steve's got going. And I love this is one of my favorite Steve Vai solos of all time too on this thing, where it just kind of, he perfectly is just shredding and going along with the groove of that riff, and like just does some incredible stuff here. And then layers upon that with I think, in fact, it might be a particular effect he's using on a pedal that sounds like almost like two guitars are playing at once on the same thing, but like I'm pretty sure it's just the one guitar he's doing. It's just a pedal effect, and it's just such a really badass song. One of my favorite songs he's ever done, simply titled Ooh. So that just an incredible one yet again. Then we go to the track number 4, Frank, which is a very, very touching and emotional tribute to, Steve Vai. I mean, I know he was initially taught by Joe Satriani, but Frank Zappa's really who kind of, showed him like and inspired him creatively. They worked together for several years. He played on his albums. He played live with them, and they were just really good friends. And just a total mentor. It shows in just about every album he's done. You hear the Frank Zappa influence, and this is just a very, very powerful tribute. You can just hear like the sadness felt in Steve's playing. It's an instrumental, but obviously it's Steve freaking Vai, so you can hear the emotion and the sadness coming from him, and it's just because Frank died this year, if I'm not mistaken, 1999, if not the year before, but so that had to tear up Steve. So it was only what a way to send a tribute to him on his album, for somebody who inspired him that much. And you even hear little hints of like some kind of some very Frank Zappa sounding kind of playing on here, which is kind of a Steve Vai thing in general. Again, because he inspired him so much, you hear it all over Steve Vai's work. But incredible track, very, very powerful stuff, especially for a fan of Frank Zappa. Then track number 5 is also a tribute track, apparently. I didn't know this until I was actually reading about it the other day. Jaboom. That's actually a tribute to Stevie Ray Vaughan, which is pretty cool. But I didn't know that. And that's another really, really cool one. Kind of a shorter, both these are what, I think like 3 minutes? Little 3-minute tributes. I can't really, the font's a little weird on there. The Frank may be a 9 minutes. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, there's no way that's 3 minutes. But the font's kind of tiny on there. But yeah, Jaboom's a little 3-minute tribute. But it's really cool, really solid, and a fitting way to, pay respects to Stevie Ray Vaughan, who was another, guitar legend who passed away, I think, either this year or the year before in 1998. So then we go with Voodoo Acid. And man, this one, It's exactly what it sounds like. It's like a freaking trip. I mean, you get some lyrics and stuff on here from Steve, and it's like it's just such a wild. It's like telling this whole story, and kind of has the whole like. I mean, it's kind of sounds Hendrixy in a way, as far as like kind of the way it sounded, really psychedelic rock sounding in parts with some really odd time signatures to kind of give it that wacky feel, and just telling a really really wild story, presumably about somebody's acid trip. So maybe Steve's, I don't know, but really really cool song though. That was one I forgot. I kind of forgot about upon, but whenever I re-listened to it for this review here, I was like, damn, that's a really cool and kind of different track that stands out in the album for sure. Then we go with, man, this is one of my favorite tracks of all time by Steve, Windows to the Soul. You talk about this kind of meditative theme coming in again. It starts like, there's like this, Steve has like this deep voice effect going on, and like slowly talking about finding the window to the soul, and it just goes into like this kind of offbeat but really really like just kind of trying to describe it here, the best way to describe it. It's offbeat, but I mean it's not like a heavy thing. It's just like a very very rhythmic, and it's such an, I mean, oh man, it's just so incredible. It's hard to find the right words for this track. I'd say it's, because he does pick up the shredding and stuff a little bit later on in the song, but this is more of just like really, really flowing and kind of peaceful with this offbeat kind of time signature, but yet the scales and just kind of the stuff Steve is doing over this, you just feel the passion in this thing, and it just flows along perfectly with this offbeat time signature that's kind of carrying the song, and you get this really, really pretty, just kind of main melody that kind of keeps reoccurring. There's some really cool techniques where it sounds like Steve's all of a sudden, just going freaking nuts here with like a slide, almost sounds like whistles or like an echo. Hell, there's one note he hits on the guitar that sounds like a freaking dinosaur call or something. It's crazy. Then you get this really, really cool breakdown before a big solo where it's just like the drums going, which I forget who the drummer is on this, but he does a damn good job on this track in particular. And it's just Steve kind of doing a little bit of a kind of a bluesy little run, and then he picks back up in that riff, and man, some of the fastest and most insane tapping Steve's ever done. I mean, it's like Tender Surrender levels of like some of solo for him. One of my favorite guitar solos and one of my favorite songs from Steve Vai, period. I mean, I'm talking, he just goes nuts near the end here, just shredding and doing all this tapping, and then like while doing like going super fast on these scales, and then just doing squeals right after over and over again, and it's just, oh man, and it's so passionate, and it's all while this is going on, it's like it's perfectly following that same kind of rhythm throughout that makes it that really meditative track. And again, I think it has to do with like the rhythm of this thing. Kind of how it's going, and then it ends with like talk about the window to the soul is behind the eyes, and just this really cool kind of sound effect voice Steve's got in his voice going on, and beautiful song, one of my favorites. Then we go with The Silent Within, which is another really really good one on here. Steve, let me think, make sure I got the right one on here. Yeah, Steve is he's singing on this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. This one's really cool. I mean, man, once he kind of, he did do a little bit of singing on like some of these before, but after Fire Garden, that whole side pretty much on that double album of him singing, he really, gets to do it a lot more and just gets better and better as time goes on. And this is a track, again, The Silent Within, where it really kind of does that. And this sounds kind of ancient sounding too, in the way that kind of the chord progression is and everything. So another really cool song, The Silent Within. Then one of my favorite songs that he's ever sang that's just such a pretty ballad, I'll Be Around. Man, the strings or synths in here, or the strings and synths in here, are just beautiful. Just gorgeous stuff that goes along perfect with kind of the whole kind of clean tone thing, and some of Steve's best singing in here, and I love the chorus, really, really hooky, the I'll be around for a while, who's gonna hold you, and just really, really beautiful, profound lyrics from Steve, and then again, a really passionate solo that kind of is just, again, just a really relaxing track. Then we go to Lucky Charms, which is kind of wild, and kind of got a really high pitched type of vocal effect that we've heard from Steve before, using this kind of comedic in a way, and kind of more of a shreddy track going on here, which is really cool. And then we go to Fever Dream, another really solid one here, where, if I'm not mistaken, I think Steve's singing on this one again too. Make sure. Yeah, because I'm almost 100%. I just don't want to make sure I get this one and the next track mixed up here. Let's see, Voodoo Acid. No, that's the instrumental. Okay, yeah. There we go. Okay, see, I was just wanting to make sure and not get mixed up there. Sorry, but yeah. So it's the one after this he sings on. Fever Dream, though, is the instrumental. There's another instrumental track that is really cool, and again, kind of has a shreddy kind of vibe to it. Kind of your more traditional kind of Steve Vai sounding song, which totally has its place among all this like really experimental stuff that we find here on this album. Then we go to Here I Am, which is another one he sings, which is just another really, really solid and cool song that demonstrates how solid he can really be as a singer, and is a definite standout. Another one I really forgot how damn good it is, Here I Am. And then we end it with Asian Sky, which has that lead vocalist from that Japanese band, and I think their lead guitar player kind of chiming in on here with Steve, and Steve's doing a little bit of vocal work on here to make this really, really cool and hooky chorus that sounds grand and epic. Really, really cool solo stuff. I love the layering of the vocals between this Japanese singer. He does man, he's got a hell of a voice. I thought it was a woman. I mean, he's hitting some high range. So this guy's doing some cool stuff, and again, just it sounds really grand. And I love the closing in this, where it just kind of fades out with their vocals of Alive and an Asian Sky, kind of singing all that, and just a really, really beautiful ending to a beautiful album. This is another one of the masterpieces that Steve has pumped out, and I think it's a really underrated record. People, I don't see a lot of people talking about this one, but I mean, it's just got classics all over it for me personally, and it's one of those that has like this really cool kind of feel. Again, talk about the meditative kind of Eastern, Asian, Indian kind of culture theme around it that really gives it just such a cool vibe to it, and makes it a standout in Steve's discography for me, a major, major standout. Like I've said before, he kind of has like a way he does his albums, like scatters them with different kind of types of songs he makes, but each of the albums have like a totally different vibe going on about them, and this is one of those. The kind of vibe and feel this one gives is just one I'm a big, big fan of. So yeah, guys, we just capped off the 90s Steve Vai stuff, which is the decade that he released the most of his albums. So we will pick up next time when we look at his first album in the 2000s, being 2005's Real Illusions Reflections, which is the first of a two album series. He had a sequel to that album, The Story of Light. So this is the first of that, and it was kind of weird with those two, even though like The Story of Light is a part 2 to Real Illusion Reflections, like it's a sequel album, man, there's quite a bit of a gap between those two releases. I mean, Steve was releasing like live albums and doing the G3 thing and stuff in between this and Real Illusion Reflections, and that's not that big of a gap, 1999 through 2005, but from 2005 because Story of Light came out 2012. So there's a pretty big gap in there, but, he was busy doing some other stuff and appearing on other stuff. But nonetheless, we'll talk about some of that stuff going on next time when we cover that album. Real Illusion Reflections, 2005, coming up. And that will actually be the only studio release of Steve Vai during the 2000s. And, as always, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, especially if you guys maybe this was maybe a release of Steve's that you haven't heard or really checked out much into. Because like I said, I don't really hear a lot of people talking about this one. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this one and kind of how cool kind of your thoughts on the feel and the themes and kind of stuff that this album has on it, because it's really a unique listen. And I think if you guys have enjoyed the other stuff that have been following along in this review series, that you'll definitely love this one right here. But anyways, guys, yeah, just like, subscribe, comment, and let's get some conversation going down there in the comments about some more of these Steve Vai albums. And we're getting pretty close. We're flying on through here. He doesn't have a massive discography like Maiden or Sabbath or some of them other ones we've covered, but it's still a pretty big one, especially with this new album out. So, but we're getting there. We've got, I think, 4 albums to go until we do the ranking video. So stay tuned, everybody, for the next time. Thanks.